So many cancer survivors and thrivers are making these mistakes. You do not want to do the same thing. Watch this. Dr. Amy here, and after 16 years of working in oncology and cancer care, these are the mistakes I see over and over again. So many cancer thrivers have the best intentions, but they completely mess this up. It slows down your healing, it worsens your side effects, and it puts you at risk of a cancer recurrence. Let me help. Starting with number 1. Picking only one treatment category. This is a big one, so let me explain. I see so many people completely reject either alternative medicine or conventional medicine. It's almost like they need to pick a side, but that's not true. You should pick every strategy that has solid evidence to work for you and your case. Cancer doesn't care about someone's ideology or someone's belief. Cancer cares about biology. Here's what happens all too often. Someone has such a deep-rooted belief in one thing that they want to prove that it's right. They want to prove that that philosophy is right. Let me give you an example. Keto can cure cancer, even though perhaps the science has never shown that a keto diet is effective against your specific type of cancer. But they've heard about keto over and over again, that they're committed to that ideology. They're committed to that specific path. As a cancer thriver, you want to use whatever strategy is going to work. You want the result, staying cancer-free. How you get there should matter less as long as it gets you to that end result. If it's something simple and right in front of you, for example, like walking 10,000 steps a day, then do that. The goal is to do whatever has the strongest evidence to work best for you, your diagnosis, your staging, your biology, your unique body. Now, as a cancer researcher and a cancer thriver myself, I've seen both sides of this very deeply. Conventional treatments like surgery or chemo or radiation or immunotherapy, they can be life-saving. At the same time, nutrition and exercise, strategic supplementation and stress reduction, that can significantly lower your risk of recurrence and eliminate side effects. That plays a powerful role in how well your body tolerates treatment. It's not either or, it's a strategic decision. Okay, but on to number 2, doing too much research. Now, I want to be clear here because this is nuanced. Wanting to be informed is a great thing. Being curious about your diagnosis, that's very healthy. And plus, understanding your options, that really matters in terms of making the right decisions. But what most people are doing is not actually research. Watching cancer content on YouTube, even this video, this is not research. Listening to endless podcasts or scrolling social media, jumping from one influencer to another, this is not at all research. This is just information overload. I've watched way too many cancer survivors and thrivers become completely overwhelmed with what to do. All of this cancer content is taking over their mental space. Every day is consumed with new theories or supplements they should try or diet strategies. True research is not this. True research is steady and it's systematic. It involves peer-reviewed literature, clear research questions, and carefully filtering out high-quality evidence. There are entire careers devoted to this specifically. Librarians, epidemiologists, clinical researchers like me. This is not something that most people are doing very well, especially if you're living your life and trying to recover from cancer and you have a career of your own. Let me give you an example. When something's wrong with my car, I like to be informed about the decision and what I should do. I like to make sure I'm not being misled or ripped off. But I definitely don't argue with my mechanic and think that I could possibly out-Google their knowledge. And I definitely don't argue and say, I'll just rub coconut oil on it and see if that fixes it. I can't possibly have as much knowledge about cars as my mechanic does. And I really don't want to. The exact same thing applies here. You don't want to become a cancer expert. That's not your passion in life. You just happen to be diagnosed with cancer yourself. And there are people like me who have spent decades working in this area. I've spent 16 years reading through oncology science and research. You are smart. You are intelligent, but you couldn't possibly have the same knowledge base as someone who's devoted their entire career to this. So allow researchers to support you and listen to their guidance. But the other side to this is when you're consuming so much cancer talk and content, your nervous system stays in a constant state of threat. Decision fatigue sets in. Your confidence dips. You feel like you're always missing something critical. More information does not equal better decisions. At some point, research needs to translate into action. A clear plan that's strategic always beats endless scrolling. Okay, but on to the next one. Not getting recovery help. This one's huge and almost no one talks about this. During treatment, you're supported every step of the way. Oncologists, nurses, everything's examined. Monitoring labs, checking doses, every step of the way. Then treatment ends, and suddenly you're on your own. Your oncology team is amazing at treating cancer, but they are not set up to guide your recovery. That's just not their scope of genius. They need to know so much about chemo and radiation and labs. They can't possibly also know all the literature and knowledge around eliminating side effects and staying cancer-free. This is exactly why when you ask your oncologist, what should I eat? They just shrug and say, eat whatever you want. Because honestly, they don't know. And honestly, they don't need to be an expert in that because you need to find an expert that will help you in that area. And that's exactly why you're here. Recovery is when you lay the foundation for how your body is going to operate for years to come. This is not the time to try a do-it-yourself approach for everything. Now, many cancer survivors and thrivers inside the Cancer Freedom Program, including one breast cancer thriver, she came to me exhausted and overwhelmed and unclear what to do. She was underfueled and she was terrified she was doing the wrong things. She was eating clean. She had eliminated an entire food group and she still felt awful. So we rebuilt her nutrition strategy. We restored her strength. We corrected key deficiencies in her macro and micronutrient targets, and that started to give her the confidence to build back her body and her life. And this is what guided recovery actually looks like. Now, if you want my help, I am honored because there's one thing that I personally know for sure is that doing this alone is tough. So you can apply to book a complimentary discovery call directly with me. During this call, I'll review your #1 cancer challenge, the primary reason why you're still being held back by cancer, and we'll discuss next steps for moving forward and if we're the right fit to work together. I'll put the link right below this video so you can complete your 2-minute application and apply now. So go ahead and apply to meet privately with me for free. Okay, but on to #4, relying on eating healthy as a strategy. Almost everyone that I speak to after cancer is eating healthy. They're cooking more, they're eating vegetables, they're cutting back on sugar, they're choosing whole foods. That's a great starting point, but that is absolutely not a cancer strategy. You need to know the specifics of your macro and micronutrients. We have science that shows specifically what you should be targeting. So you can use that science if you start to look deeper. If you don't know the details and the data around your food, then we actually don't know if you have an anti-cancer diet. You're just guessing. To assess where your nutrition is at right now, let me ask you a very simple yes or no question. If you think about what you ate yesterday, would you be able to tell me the exact number of grams of protein and fiber that you had yesterday? Remember, this is a yes or a no question. If you cannot tell me that data, that is okay. That is where strategy needs to come into play. you have a big opportunity there. Okay, but on to number 5, cutting out complete food groups. This mistake often comes up in fear-based messaging. Someone hears that carbs feed cancer, or dairy causes inflammation, or fruit has too much sugar, or grains are toxic. So they cut everything out. The problem is that type of restriction, it almost always backfires. Cutting out entire food groups, that's going to increase stress hormones. That's going to raise the risk of nutrient deficiencies. And it often leads to undereating and underfueling your body. It can also disconnect you from your body's hunger cues. And this starts to make food feel very unsafe. Now, I've seen people become weaker and more fatigued, and they're anxious about cutting out these foods. They feel so much guilt when they finally cave and eat some of it, all while they're believing they're doing the right thing. Now, you do not need to be perfect, but you absolutely do need strategy. It also needs to be sustainable, something you could see yourself doing for the rest of your life. Your food should support your strength, your recovery, your immune system. This should support quality of life. Your strategy should be far more about the foods to include and far less about the foods to avoid. Cancer survivors and thrivers, they deserve clarity, not chaos, confidence, not constant fear, and strategy, not extremes. Okay, so now that you know the most common cancer mistakes, here's what you need to know next. You need a strategy on what you should be doing. That's exactly why I'm linking up my 9 steps to cancer healing right here. Click the link here and I'll see you in the next video.